There we go. So we'll just get a little orientation to JavaScript. I'll begin giving you some of the scripts. So this is where just to get a little idea about it. Yeah. So usually your trigger, if you just see here, trigger, you will have an option to execute a JavaScript action. You can see here. Here, see, execute JavaScript. With me, are you all with me? So it can take a script. The script will be pasted here. Either you write or you copy paste from elsewhere. So now this can take up to this, as it says, 32,767 character of code, not beyond it. Right. So anytime we are creating a JavaScript, we will be using a variables for it. Text variable, number variable, true, false. We have learned it in the past, if you all remember. So your JavaScript will be basically created using the JavaScript will be using the variable to execute a particular command, whatever command you give, because JavaScript is just like a trigger, but a special kind of trigger. Now the beauty of this trigger is like it's a complex branching course. Often certain things we need to do multiple triggers. So JavaScript combines all the triggers together depending on the what kind of script it is in couple of instances. Now you need not learn JavaScript to to create the courses. There are a lot of existing JavaScript codes which are available. You can adopt it. Otherwise, it is the web developer in your company who may create a relevant JavaScript based on the articulate and help you to execute it. So basically, as it says, JavaScript simplifies a group of variables and execute them in a few lines of code, right? So how we do this particular JavaScript, the moment you add a JavaScript using this option, which you can see here, we'll be adding up just in some time. Execute the JavaScript, which you have it over here. Execute JavaScript, you put the code and you accordingly decide in the what command you want to give, when you want the code to be executed, etc. Now, once you are inserted the trigger and we go for a review, that JavaScript trigger, basically, it will not work. In the preview mode, your JavaScript is not supported. You need to publish it. So what do we do for us to test? We cannot publish it in LMS. So what we do, we publish it in web. So how do you do it? You click on this publish button and then you will have these 360 web, video, Word, your LMS and LRS, right? I'll be explaining you all this in our next module because we have a module on players. At this moment, what you can do, you can publish it in the web. Okay, so it will open in your web browser, whatever Chrome, Firefox you're using, it will open directly over Edge, whatever browser you're using. Okay, so that we can test whether the JavaScript is working or not. So always remember your JavaScript will not work in a preview mode. Clear, guys? And then, of course, when it comes to, I mean, you don't have to learn the JavaScript, as I told you. There's a lot of created tools which are there which will help you. So what we will do now, we will understand how to insert JavaScript and run a particular function. So there are two ways. You have two methods. Yeah. Method one, you can get the JavaScript, create the variable, insert that particular JavaScript code and execute it. Very straightforward, the very simple method to do it. There's another method. In the second method, what we do, we try to, in our folder, when we publish courses, if you just go here, you publish a course, let's say in LMS, you have an option. This also I'll explain you in your next module, which is your player, about the SCORM 1.2, SCORM 2004, your other options, the ICC, etc. So when you publish a particular course, it will create a SCORM files. So inside that SCORM file folder itself, you are inserting your JavaScript. As it says, if you would like to include your JavaScript function, a separate JavaScript JS file, then you place your custom JavaScript in your story content folder. Yeah, your story content folder could be something like this. If I just quickly go and so you can see it over here. Let me see here. We open this. So this is a dot story file. This is a storyboard, and this is your published output file, your SCORM output file. Okay, so over here itself, we can insert the JS file, JavaScript file we call it. Are we getting, guys, everybody? So if you see your articulate got dot story, if you just see the file extension, like your Microsoft PowerPoint got PPTX. Yeah, your Excel also have an extension. So like this extension file, which is a .js, will be inserted here for using this particular method. As it says, add the following line code to this your story HTML file before closing this particular tag. Now, don't go for it. It's just kind of a little bit confusing. You can go for this more straightforward method because we are not developers. Mostly for developers, this will work out real well, the second method. But I'm just orienting you because you should know there's an alternative method to insert a JavaScript, even not just using the trigger, but directly in your output file. Okay, now but please note, you need to have a corresponding, what you can call the variables in your course. Just not having variables will not help you to execute the function. Variables should be there. Okay, so now let's go for this one. So I'm going to tell you how you can use a JavaScript to insert a date. Okay, the current date, the system date, basically. So what are the steps involved? I've just pictorially created this for your reference so that you have no confusion at all in understanding. Please follow strictly these steps. If any step is shuffled or not being executed in order, your JavaScript will not work. I want to give you the caution on that. Okay, so first step, what we do, we create a system variable. Second step, to test the variable, we create a referencing. Third, we execute the JavaScript. Fourth, of course, we publish it to the web to check whether it's working or not. Yeah, and this is a JavaScript. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to give you the JavaScript over there on the Padlet so that you will have a copy of it. I'll give more JavaScript. I'll be adding up all the JavaScript over here in line so that you will be able to use it accordingly. So let me give you the code and then I'll show you how we can do it. Yeah. You need to execute this code, remember, this code. And your variable name need to be this. Do not change the variable name. System date, same as it is. I'll tell you why. Just a moment. Let me get it over here. Okay. So this is your code from here to here. Okay. Now please take a note. JavaScript for system date, right? Now in your code, what we say the set variable, VAR is variable. Player dot set variable. You are using this variable. Do not change the name of your variable. Otherwise, this JavaScript code, which you will be using in your trigger, will not work. So this is a variable you need to consider. Okay, so let's execute it. Same steps to be followed. And let me already it has the variables. So I'm just going to do it in a new file, guys, because already there are variables in that particular file. Okay. It's taking time to load. Okay, so I'm just opening a new project. But why is it so slow? Okay, so there we go. First step, create a variable. So I'm clicking on the var and then plus, and then we have a variable name system date very strictly, and then okay. That's what you need to do. Right. Oh. I said this is the reason why it was slow. It opened multiple folders. Same process you have to follow strictly. Okay, and then of course we have to do this referencing so we can check it, and then we will take the this thing. So I'm going to quickly do that in our folder. This is okay, and then just a moment. I'm just going to check quickly if if we have the system date text variable use count. Correct. I'll just take the code, guys, or I'll just take the system date itself. I'll do the referencing, take the code itself directly. So I've just copied the code and just for reference, insert and then your text box. Yeah. And then you go back to insert and do referencing. Which referencing? Only single variable will have it. And just increase the size of it a little bit. You can, and then come to the trigger. Yeah, what trigger we want? Of course, we want the uh, execute JavaScript. Paste the code here. Everybody with me? The code should have that system date. See, it's got highlighted in purple. Okay. And then when do we want? It depends, when let's say when timeline starts on the slide. And which system date? Your learner system date. That will come. And you're done. Just to test this, you can create a scene, basically in a particular scene. It can be in a particular certificate also. Let's say you created a certificate and you want the system date. You can do it this manner. Yeah, so I'm not creating a certificate right now because objective is to be just understand the system date. And then we just preview it. How do we preview it? Basically, we need to publish it. Yeah, so I'll just show you if you publish it here, what happens. If you try to preview this slide, the message will come. This is the last column referring to this. These are the variables to be created. So how do we do it? The steps need to be followed very strictly. That's very important. Okay. So let me just create a new slide. Okay, so here what I'm doing, we are kind of creating a small scenario. Let's say you have some terms and conditions which you want to use. Let's say terms and some conditions. I'll just take the Lauren if some text, that'll just save my time a bit. So let me just take, yeah. So what I'm going to do, assume these are terms and conditions. So I'm just going to put a text box. Let's accept the terms and let's say assignment. We know how we do this. Insert and go to your scroll panel. I'm going to insert a scroll panel here and take the text. Of course, the text should be of scroll panel size and put it over here. All done? This we have done it already in the past, if you all recollect. Yeah, and then we wanted to also have, let's say, these variables. Let me create the variable, then I'll tell you how you can kind of view it. So we know what are the variables to be created. We have to create here. We have to create a date, today's date. These are the variables to be created. Today's date, which is a text variable. And then you have a today's local time. That's a text variable. So let me go and create it. So first step, create the variable. What variable? Text variable. Okay. Okay. And then we're creating one more variable, exactly the same name. Do not change the name because this name is there in your JavaScript. If you alter, the JavaScript won't be executed for certain script, not for all type of script, but certain scripts. So please watch out for it. Okay. And then we have three variables to be created. DD, MM, YY. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come over here and take this variable. These are number variables. Take a note of it. These all are number variables. I mentioned it. Create number variables. Yeah, so not text, but number variable. DD. Okay. Okay. And then one more. MM. And then number. Okay. And then we have YY. Okay. It's done. Okay. Now all these variable referencing, we are going to do it over here. Yeah. This should be number variable. Thank you so much for telling and noticing it carefully. That really helps a lot. Otherwise, the code will not be getting executed. Okay, there we go. And now we do the quick referencing. Yeah, so let's say I'm just going to take directly from here instead of typing, but perhaps you can always type it percentage, the variable name, percentage. But I'm just going to do a referencing. Let's say today's date, first thing. Okay, and then the second one, your this local date, and then third one, reference. Yeah, so date first if you wanted that manner, and then slash. Let's say we wanted the month, okay, and then slash we wanted the year. Here, all good. Of course, the size is small, so what I'm going to just increase it a little bit. Okay, cannot take it together. Now just watch out that sometimes if the text is too much, it'll overflow from this particular box. So you may give sufficient space always to ensure that this is not getting kind of an overflow kind of a situation in case that happens. So just going to increase the size of it a little bit. Okay. And then of course you can have the rest all stuff. Let's say we go to insert and we also input box, we can say, and we can do other things also. Let me just keep it like this and give a statement. You can add name also, I mean, we have learned the text variable, remember? Though that'll not be the part of JavaScript, but you can add your name also, that input box where the learner can enter the name. I agree to given terms and let's say conditions. Done. And then we also can have a, let's say, a submit button. All good. This is coming to big size text. Everybody? Okay, so what we do now, we're going to execute the code. We have done the first step, remember? First step, variable. Second step, referencing. Referencing is required because we want the learner to see the particular thing. And I'm going back to the Padlet and I'm just going to take the code. Yeah, so come over here, execute the JavaScript, you paste this code, check out. Remember, see here, DD, MY, YY, these are the variables. Can you see it's purple color highlighted now? Our variables. See, get var means get variable. The player should get this variable. That's what it meant. Okay. So let's say when timeline starts, I think that's what we wanted basically. And say, okay. Okay, now we can set a separate trigger also because we want the learner to tick it and then click on the submit button. So you can have it for that. This is a separate one. So let's say we say this one input box. We can say show the layer or move to the next slide. So then we can do jump to the next slide. Oh no, not so. You can say change the state of the, let's say this is where this one to selected when user clicks on that checkbox. Okay. And okay, we can have another trigger. Change the, okay, we can say this could be, jump to next slide. Next slide, when user clicks on, let's say button 1, if The object, let's say checkbox is selected. All good? Everybody clear? It's just the additional thing, stuff. So let's say our main objective is to get the variable work. The variable basically have that thing. So just kind of publishing this to point only 1.2. Okay. And publish it. Okay, there we go. Can you see this? Yeah, so your scroll panel, and then you have, these are just the format, just to show you way, and then submit button. Of course, we haven't previewed the next slide, so it'll not come up. So, but you have, so this is not coming because I have selected only single slide while I was previewing it. We have not created the separate, but you can see this how it appears kind of a thing. So, Anuja, just take a note of it. Follow that order and referencing, and then this issue will not come at all. This issue is not such a, it's not like a kind of a problem issue as such. Likewise, you can also add a print button to the player. So let me show you how you can do it. Then you can try all of it together kind of a thing. So first I'm giving you the code for it. Please take a note, you're adding it, your JavaScript is to modify the player to add a print button. Player is the interface which your learner sees. We have two type of interface, classic and the modern. The most of the time, the black color box, what you see here is the modern player. So there itself, they'll have a print button. People can print the slide, right? So just kind of give you the code. And I'll show you steps from here, the single code. But you need to follow these steps basically. Okay, I'll just tell you. Anything additional, I'll add it over here. First, let me just show you how this could work out. Okay. So what we do, of course, our objective is to add this particular print button. Add a print button to the slide is also there. But again, you may have this option where you can add a print button to the player itself. Yeah. So how do you add a print button to the your slide? You just go over here and you have an option over here. If you see print slide, can you see it, guys? This is for the second one. This one. I'm talking about this one. This option. Just let me unlock and show you this one, where you can click on this option, and then you just select this, where is it, print slide, and then you have, let's say, this slide. Yeah, let's say when user clicks on certain button, you can create a button also, like a print button. Let's say in our case we have this button one, print button, and say okay. Get it, guys? But what we are going to explore is that not to the slide. This is a regular trigger, but we want to have this option for the entire set of slide decks which you have it for the particular course. So for the player itself, you're adding a print button. So how do you do it? So let me just clear the notation. Yeah, so the steps to be followed very strictly. Remember, modify the player is often overlooked because you have to add it to the story view. That could be the process. So what you are doing is you click on the story view. I'll tell you how to do the step by step. You select the player. Under the player tab, you click a new button, and then you add this thing, which is called your print window. And accordingly, select the action, this JavaScript need to be added, this script. So I'll just put this thing right because you're modifying the player. That also information needed. So I'm putting it separately over here. So there's no doubt at all. But this is your code which you have to use. Okay, hold on. This did not. Went over here. Yeah, this is the code you have to use. And let me highlight the code with some other color so that there's no confusion at all. This is a code. Okay. So let's follow the steps, and then steps need to be followed very strictly. Otherwise, things will not work out. So what do we do? First, we go to the story view and then select the player. So let's do it accordingly. We go to story view. We select the player. Everybody with me? Yeah. And then, of course, we follow the next step. The step is under the player tab, click on the new button and then add that particular thing. Let me just take the code from here. Okay, there we go. So under the your here player tab, new button. Okay, so there we have what is a tab we wanted. We want a print. Yeah, that is a thing given, right? Because name should not be also varying. Let me just double check it. Print window. Okay, print window. So I'm just going to put the same thing. Print window. And then of course we execute the JavaScript. We copy paste our code. That same code we have it very carefully. Okay. And then say okay. Can you see this? Print window. Yeah, it's got added to the player. Any changes you do with the player is a one which learner will be able to view. You're not making changes in the slide. This will be like a, I would say like a master, I would say slide where it applies to all across the course, not for the particular single slide, but across. Anything you see in your player will be applicable to the entire set of course. Okay, I'll be anyway orienting you on the player in our next session. So perhaps this is where you get the window. So I can print it now. Click on this and say, okay, now let me go and check it out whether this is going to work in this mode and print window. No, I'm going to just publish it. It's going to work. Uh, okay, view. There we go. There we go. There we go. Can you see the print window here? Just let me out and show you here. So if you just open your player, you wouldn't find it over there. So what I can do now, let me just clear this annotation. Okay, hold on. This is a disadvantage of annotation. Cannot get clear automatically. Click on it. At this moment, I don't have much stuff, but I can kind of print it and I can save it somewhere. Let's say your demo print. There we go. So I can go back and now open that print here. Got it? Right. Now, it can be also separately printed. Like you wanted a particular certificate slide or certain important slides to be printed. But this gives a huge advantage because learner can print it. And for accessibility purpose, certain learners need to have it. So that accessibility part also I'll be kind of discussing with you in your next session. So perhaps this is one aspect to be taken care. Okay, are we getting, guys? Please follow that order strictly. Okay, so let's add some greeting. So I'll just give you greeting. But again, take a note, greeting based on the learner's system time. It can be morning, evening, afternoon, anytime, right? It could be, isn't it? It's become so irrelevant in the morning. I'm telling you good night or good evening. So that should not happen, perhaps. So we will, let's just say, I'll give you the code first. This is the code. Yeah. I'll tell you the variable to be created. The process remains the same. You're creating the first step is creating a variable, text variable, of course, and then you do the referencing and just execute the code. Simple. Yeah. So do you want me to write it down? This variable stuff, create text variable. I'll just mention so that you're not confused when you're going to practice separately. Here, the code I'm highlighting in the green, and there we go. So I'm just going to take the code from here, and here we go. And just create a new basic. Okay. And first step, I create a variable. Okay. Reading text variable. Okay, okay. And then I'll create the referencing. Okay. And then go to your trigger and then execute the JavaScript. And we have the code here. It's just the workaround with the code. The purpose of demonstration is to show you, yes, these are going to work out, right? So let's say when timeline starts, that's what we wanted, right? Timeline starts on this particular slide. Okay, so let's kind of quick preview it. This is 1.3. Wow, there we go. Good evening, based on the system time. You try it out tomorrow morning. Perhaps you should see whether it's going to work out. That'll become a test. For at this moment, it's working because I copied from the articulate direct. I mean, from the Padlet directly. But perhaps the time changes basically according to the system. And if you notice carefully, here is a that code which says here. See what you're doing. Get variable hour now. What is the time? Again, set variable greeting. Good evening. Depending on the time. Good afternoon. Can you see? Good morning. Yeah, so all three different options, of course, the limited options you have it over here. Okay, so you got to do all this, guys. I mean, you got to practice it. I'm just showing you so that you are kind of gaining the idea over it. Now, another thing can be done. You can have the JavaScript for displaying the learner's name. But again, this one I will show you the code, but you cannot test it. The unfortunate part is because a learner's name will be extracted from the LMS. As you know, each company will have a set of database where learners are basically will be a course will be administered to them. So only when I'm getting a link to access the my company's LMS, my email ID name and the database is already there in the LMS. That's why I've got a access to it. So it will pull up from there based on my login ID, my credentials basically, whichever ID I'm logging in. So script I'll give you, I'll show you how to execute, but again, you cannot test it like the rest all we were testing it using your we were publishing in the web, but this one we won't have that option unless until you have LMS. So perhaps you can know how to do it and then you can try it out in your company's LMS. So how do we do it? Let me just tell you the steps which are involved. So what's happening? I told you the name will be extracted from the LMS. So first what we do, we create of course, a course, and then we create a text variable. Yeah, that's why we are creating a name variable over here. The name of the variable is a text name variable. And then you are creating a referencing, same thing like we were doing it so far. And then you execute the JavaScript. Okay, so that's what you're doing, executing the JavaScript. This is a little longer kind of a JavaScript because it's extracting the name from the LMS. So I'm just going to copy this JavaScript for all of you. Just a little, just ensure that there's no change you're doing in the JavaScript. Otherwise, this is not going to click. Same spacing, everything should be same as it is. Okay, and there we go. But unfortunately, you cannot test it. But keep it, you never know, you may require in some point of time. Okay, so let's go to this one. I'm just going to create a new basic slide. Yeah, and then create a variable. Sorry, not trigger. Variable first. And this time up variable is name, text variable, okay. And okay. Yeah, and then we do a referencing. Referencing is for our testing. Do not put the reference, I mean, for testing reference, do not put it on the slide. But the reference which learners want to see, place it in the proper place. Wherever you want the learner name to be, like a hello, let's say ABC. So that can appear like this. Yeah, so at this moment, there's no point putting hello because this is not going to work out because we don't have LMS right now. But perhaps The process we should remember the process. And there we go. Text variable. Increase the size of it. You can add the other pleasantries if you want over here. Let's say hello, something. Okay, and then of course, JavaScript, execute JavaScript. And then your script is here. Okay. And of course, we want when the timeline starts. Okay, and okay. That's it. This cannot be previewed, but this will work. We will look into now, last time, if you just recollect right now, we were looking into some of these stuff like JavaScript for displaying the learner's first name. And of course, you get it from the LMS. Now we will look into this particular interaction. Let me just close this one. Right? JavaScript for manipulating the lightbox. So what exactly, what is a lightbox for pretty sure. So we will have that like we may have that cross button on the top of the corner of a particular slide as we always do it. And of course, to stop the preview, we often click on the this escape button. Now what you are doing, as it says, what if you don't want the user to get out of the light box unless they want something. So you may ask them to answer a question or read an important text or watch a video, etc. And you want to hide and show this X button, this cross button, basically with a JavaScript. Yeah. So people often create the light boxes using the master layout because this slide master what we use it. So that can be also the light box could be part of it also. So how we do it, this is how we will be using this small trigger. So this is again where we are using this trigger to hide and to show the light boxes, depending on what you wanted. But we are putting, because since you're putting the trigger, this particular JavaScript trigger in the master slide layout itself. So when the light box starts, the button which is, you're understanding what happening, the cross button, when we put a JavaScript like this, suppose it's a light box slide, then there's a small cross button over here. We are hiding the cross button itself. We want the learner to stay in the light box for some time and go through a couple of those light boxes, you can say, perhaps. So this trigger can help you to hide and show these JavaScript. So let me just give you the trigger and perhaps how we will insert in the master slide only. Okay, so first, were you able to do, guys, that the previous JavaScript, were you able to apply this print and adding the greeting last time we were discussing, right? Greeting could be really interesting. Print button again depends on the, how we want it. So I'll just copy this. Just script only required, this whole JavaScript, not the bottom. Bottom is just for explanation. This is the, so I'll give a little space. See, it's mentioned here, hide and show. So how we do it? I'm going to create a thing, but I want to show you here. You take the script and you go to your master slide here. But you should have a light box. We don't have a light box at this moment. We know what is a master slide, right? People, initially I told you, and since we were talking, you were showing the course. Perhaps if you want, you can create a master slide look and feel. So this is a master slide. So whatever changes you make over here, that'll be there in the slide. And when you click on, let me show you, I'll show you in a moment. So perhaps this is where you set the trigger. Now let me just show that what I was talking about. Master slide, yeah. So let's say we create this articulate. It's taking time, okay. Opening. Okay, it's opening. Yeah, so let's say new project. Yeah, and then let's say we open this. Now, if you notice the apply layout, the default one, title, title content, title only, question, question with media and the blank. So here itself, you go to view and you master slide and you create the set of template over here. Certain design pattern we wanted, like how you have it in your that velocity template. Yeah. So again, after opening the master slide, don't close it. You should save and close it. Here, the close master slide view. It's just a view. So we can go back to home button or insert button and get the items which we wanted. Let's say we want a little bit of like kind of a like to give a little touch and feel to the slide. We are trying to insert something which could be like a more relevant to it. So we can again come back to format and put a different color, the color which will be more relevant. Let's say we wanted uh, this side, this color and a little darker shade. Yeah, this would do. And one more copy, I've made another one. Yeah. And then you say that this you wanted so the back side you wanted of a gray color, let's say this gray. An outline also, let's say this gray. The space is getting occupied, it's taking too much space. So what we do, we reduce the size of it. Yeah, I want to rotate horizontal. Yeah, let's say now this is gonna fit. So we take this size has become a, so we just place it over here, let's say, and over here. Yeah, and now you can see this is placed everywhere in all the other slides, which is there in place. You can further make it thinner. Let's say we make it a little bit more thinner and then increase the size just to check it. And there we go. Similarly, let's say you want a thicker one in the bottom, a little bit more thinner. I think I'm just going to undo it, became too thin. Yeah, I think this is going to work out. Yeah, so like this, I have inserted, let's say the gray is on the top and this is in the bottom. And then you take the same thing, you make another copy of it. I want to select and you place it over here. Let's say a little bit more thicker. And then you get your logo. Let's say you're able to grab some logo. Let's say our logo will be something from Icon. I'll take it. Yeah. So depending on, let's say if this is the logo, for instance, and you want this logo to be here somewhere, let's say. So all this can be done, let's say the logo is here. So you make the changes in the master slide a little bit. So everywhere your logo is insert. This is your master slide. Let's say this is what you want to. So size of the text now here, what point we have it. If I go to home button, it's open sans 24. So if you want, you can reduce this particular, increase it. The moment you increase, it will increase in all the slides. See here. So if it's now 24, here also 24, because we have changed it in the master slide. For each of them also, like, suppose this slide, I don't want it this way, but you would like to have, if you go to master slide, you have these couple of options for doing the placeholders. Now placeholder is showing up. So perhaps you can insert a particular layout if you have a particular design of a layout. As you inserted a layout. And you can insert a placeholder of whatever you want. Let's say you want a placeholder of a picture, and you get it over here. So what happens if you do this? There's a standardization of the size of the text because you have a uniform text. You have chosen this slide. If you just go here, your size 14. Yeah, and this is your 24. So again, you go to the next slide. It's again 24, and here again you have 14. And there are certain slides, let's say this one which you created with the image, you can have it like a different, like, you can have it up here. If you insert another placeholder, let's say we come back to the master slide, and I'm going to insert a text-based placeholder, let's say some content-based maybe, because this is where you can utilize this insert option. So again, your size of the text, if you see, if I go to home button, see it's 14, Open Sans 14. So what happens if you create the master slide, that text standardization, what we were referring, that hassle is completely free. And you can insert whatever. Let's say here, every time for this particular of the question one, let's say for here, every time you wanted a go to slide master placeholder, you want a character or a video or a web object. So let's say you wanted a character. Because every time in the, let's say in the title course, you wanted some character. So it's a one-time job, slide deck templates which we create in our often in our articulate. It's a simple which we do it in a PowerPoint. So once the deck is created, hassle is done. The whole job hassle. I'll just show you in one. I'm just going to stop screen sharing and just kind of show you one done for the PowerPoint. And you will see a lot of job is kind of reduced over here. You can see this is a PowerPoint one. But what I want to show you is that this is just a template which is created. And how is it created? Using different, objects. If you see here, if I just go back to the view and then slide master, you'll be able to see all these things are inserted and created. And the color matching is to be again done. This is what I did recently. The color template was required, so I thought it made me work on. So you can see here, you insert an image, this is a image box here. So it's like a rough skeleton, and then you insert everything inside this particular skeleton. And you keep on improvising it. Close the slide master. Same thing you can do it over here. Now the beauty is these are all image boxes, so I can kind of delete and insert some other image which I can grab. Let's say I want to insert this image. Getting it? And this also, if you just see this one, like I'm just removing this image. Okay, I delete it. Delete it. Now see the skeleton which is left. Can you see? So what we do is select and we kind of, let's say if I insert this one, here we go. So the image is getting broken and accordingly getting inserted because 4 boxes you can see. So if I take which one, maybe this one I can take. This one maybe I can take. Everybody? So what I was trying to say here also, if I just delete this, see, these are boxes. You can do the same, you can create these kind of a interaction by, I mean, for this course, I mean, for each course, you can create that standardization. So what happened, each slide, what we do, when I am showing you some practice file, I'm just inserting a file over here. Inserting a text box. It's open like this. I'm choosing this blank template I'm showing because it's just a demo file. However, for courses, you can consider creating these, this was I was referring over here, that files, templates basically. So this is one, should have that and multiple. So you go to your master slide and this. You go to your master slide and especially master slide alteration, you do it. And some places you want some kind of a, let's say here you go to placeholder and you decide what kind of placeholder you want to place a placeholder. Now there are certain things which is a limitation, but most of the stuff you can see here, come to your this format button and see what formats can be done over here to this picture. There are options which can be done over there in the PowerPoint which you couldn't. Let's say you wanted to add this effect. So from here itself, you can all use some of the things. But in your PowerPoint, you have more. But what I want to tell you is that you can still create pretty good templates using and then use a template for the entire course. Standardization is very easy. You don't have to break your head on each slide. Getting me? Everybody? Okay, so there we go. You can also take this code using a timer. So JavaScript for timer. Of course, timer will be more relevant when you want to run a quiz kind of a thing or some limited time you want to give it for a particular interaction. Yeah. So how we do the timer? Perhaps just let's kind of try it out. So you have a script. I'll give you script in a moment. But as I told you, every time you do a JavaScript, first up task is create a variable. Check out whether it's a number or a text variable, right? In this case, you have to create a number variable. And then, of course, you do a referencing. Referencing is must because you have to do testing. Otherwise, you don't do referencing. If not required, well and good. The problem is if it doesn't work, it'll be a problem. For testing purpose, when we do the preview, we require a referencing. And then we create a trigger. That those three steps should be always be done in a JavaScript. It shouldn't happen that you are doing you haven't created the variable, you inserted some trigger, and then you are trying to create a variable. That will lead, everything will become opposite. It's not function. So let me just give you the code. I found a website which I'll give you the URL wherein you will find a lot of these JavaScripts which can be helpful. But again, without JavaScript, also your job is pretty well done because you don't require most of the stuff is there in your trigger itself, which can be taken care for. But for if you want to learn something advanced, go ahead. Maybe we should be familiar with those functions which cannot be done using your triggers. Then the JavaScript could be helpful. So this is the code. So what we do, yeah. So we just kind of do it. So I'll just do it in a separate slide. So there is no kind of, so we're creating a first this timer variable. Yeah. See this word time. Yeah. So timer get variable. Can you see that player dot get where is your variable timer? So we should use that only. It shouldn't happen. You want to create something else. If that will lead to again non-execution of the JavaScript. So let me close this master slide and try out here itself. So first I'm creating a variable. And of course a number variable. You see, okay. I'm going to create a referencing, insert a text box. Where is the text box? And then once again, and reference, and okay. Now we go back. I'm going to take the code now. And come back and play the thing. Let's say jump to execute JavaScript, script in the box. Okay, and then when we wanted the timers to start, maybe perhaps if we say user clicks on something, which box we have to create a separate box. So perhaps at this moment I don't have a box, so I should create a box so that there will be some trigger. So let's say I can insert some button. Maybe I can say start button. And now I can place trigger. So again, once again, I have to do it. Okay, let's say user clicks on the button one, then the timer will start. The game starts now. Yeah, that's it. That's what you've done kind of a thing. It's what you need to do. You paste the JavaScript. This should function there. So how do we get it function? Of course, we have to go and kind of do the task of publishing, then only it's going to kind of work. The timer will start. So let's do the publish in the web. This is only single project, so I can publish it. Zero. Uh-huh. You see the timer running. So if you want, you can set a trigger, I mean, if the trigger where if the timer is certain number, it will stop. Or after, you're giving a prompt to the learner now. It's time up kind of a thing. Right. Right. Did I tell you we'll have it in the JavaScript that time? Okay. Right. So you can use it for your game now. Kind of that could help. So check out this particular, this, where did it go? Yeah, this timer thing can perhaps help. There are a couple of things I want you to really look into, which is your course, which has this accessibility part of it. That's one of the another important aspect. So under this module 9 itself, you will find this something called accessibility here, right? Because it's very important to ensure that, especially the learners who have disability, they should be able to have the comfort of using it. Can you tell me what is the meaning of the word accessibility? What do you think? If I say accessibility, what comes in your mind? Absolutely. So that's why the word accessible, they should be able to access it. So make the course available to all the people who have disabilities also. So they have that personalized kind of learning. They feel that they're able to learn out of it. So usually if you see accessibility, your course need to take care of three type of accessibility. One is a hearing impairment, mobility impairment, and also visual impairment. There are like if you see US and other countries, the developed part of the world, it's like a mandatory for them to have these certain workplace environment as well as courses to have complying to these accessibility part of it. It's a huge thing, in fact. Even for a job employment, if you go, you have to do a disclosure that if you are disabled or anything as such. So here, this to take care of the accessibility, couple of things to be taken care. So perhaps the idea is to address each type of it: hearing impairment, mobility, as well as visual. Now, suppose your course is containing a lot of these audio files and videos, etc., and learner with a hearing impairment will have the problem challenge. How do you deal with it? What do you do so that the person who's a hearing impairment still can be able to understand and able to get that idea what is these audio and script these narratives are talking about, which is in the form video they can see but they cannot hear the sound, right? What do you do? Absolutely, subtitles will help. It means we need to have a certain, like suppose it's a video need to give a kind of an those pointers coming up, where you are able to give them an idea. Okay, this section of the video is this is talking about this talking about this. So captions, if you remember the closed caption, we are discussing about the audio script when we add a text to speech and we have an option to close caption. Yeah, so that's where we talk about. So those who are disabled, they will have an option to open. Of course, for them, the caption will be running. And if you are not, then you should have an option to close the caption. That's what it is. So consistent design is required so that it'll be better for the learner of alt ability to connect well. The text should be readable. Shouldn't be like a small text, tiny one, and then sometimes big text that need to be taken. Simple language, I think that all help in the addressing the different aspects of it. So provide text-based alternative. Yeah. So we often use text to convey certain information. So in case you are adding up somebody who is a visually impaired, the text-based, they should have an alternative to text-based information. Because for a person who cannot hear, for them audio is a challenge. A person who cannot see, seeing a video or text is a challenge. For them, more audio need to be relied upon. So course need to be designed in such a manner. If you have to be giving inclusiveness, then all these things to be taken care. And that's what basically saying to provide the alternative. Yes, and I've had this hearing impairment, closed captions, so that they will have that option. Transcripts could also help. If you remember the print option we were talking about, so those who have, something wherein they will have an option to carry on the material also in case they would like to. Test can be, I mean, they should feel comfortable in accessing the test. So you can have a like a time base so that they have an idea, okay, this is at the limit. They're not losing track of it. Mobility impairment, not mobility could be related to any disability. It's not necessarily always the hand. It could be other part of the body. Ultimately, because drag and drop is happening with the help of hand, so they should have some kind of a other navigation pattern. Like let's say they have a option where they can press a button in a keyboard, and that will help them to decide that the item should be dropped on this box or that box. Because always that mouse we are using, which we are comfortable, may not be applicable for all kind of learner. So sometimes learner can only view. Hovering or selecting a particular button will be a little difficult because they don't have control over their hands properly. So in that case, alternative need to be given where after a few seconds, maybe the information will automatically be shown on screen. So few of those stuff. So I wanted to also kind of scan through this particular module so that it just kind of give you the little bit of idea about it. Instead of clicking, you will have a button. If you see, the trigger will basically say that instead of clicking on a particular like button, you set it as a key. They may press the let's say key from the keyboard, and that will take
Uh-huh.
them to that particular place. Or it could be time based. You can say a few seconds, even a few minutes, if this will run, and then it goes to the next slide. The next button which says you click on the next button, instead of clicking, they can press your from the keyboard, that arrow, next arrow. You can set certain triggers, you can set it. Like for example, let's say trigger here, which we say, let's say jump to the slide. We want which slide, next slide. Okay. User clicks. Yeah, so most,
Oh,
yeah, so they click, and then you are setting a next button, so if you want, you can have, let's say, the this particular, it can be timed kind of a thing. Or you can have a button, let's say a particular button. You can set the particular button, and they may have to keep on, let's say they press the particular, because from keyboard also you're able to go to the next section, right? So you may press the particular key in the keyboard. Yeah, but again, this is going to be a little tricky. This is the most trickiest part, is accessibility, where if you're trying to make a course which is compatible to those who have disability, because we do it for normal people. So these are, like, I would
okay.
say, some of the do's and don'ts you take care if people are visually impaired. Like they say, use a contrast ratio of this, so learner can be low sighted. The vision is low poor. They will be able to see. They should have an alternative to drag and drop. We don't rely too much on the hover. The hover will help, but again, they're visually impaired, right? They cannot see properly. They'll not be able to see the hover. The hover state has changed. They'll see every state is the same state because they can't see it. Maybe you have done an animation, they couldn't view the animation properly. So that those are options kind of thing. See here, the color of the button changes when you hover. But can they see it? He can't see the color of the button being hover. Alternatively, you can use a keyboard shortcut.